Welcome back to What is Your Mountain? In today's episode, we're joined by Brad Moss, an endurance athlete, a business leader, and someone who truly understands the value of perseverance. From his early days as a college football player to competing on the world stage at the Ironman World Championships, Brad's journey is built on grit, discipline, and determination. We'll talk about how his athletic mindset has influenced his career and the lessons he's learned through pushing past physical and mental limits. Join us as we uncover the mountains Brad has climbed, both on the course and in life. Hey, Brad. Good afternoon. How you doing, man?
I'm good, Joe. I'm good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us on What is Your Mountain? So the question I've been waiting this entire time to ask you is, being another endurance athlete, but someone who has never done some of the events that you have done. What inspired you to take on the challenge of being an Ironman?
It's a long story, Joe. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. But the kind of journey to the Ironman distance has been one that has been long in the making. So, um, obviously, I was a college athlete. I played football at Georgetown University. Been a lifelong athlete my whole life. So, it's always a tough day for any athlete. At the college level when they realize that there's no more practices, there's no more game days. So right after I graduated, I kind of just started getting into running. And I'll never forget it. I felt a little bit lost, but I was sitting in my apartment one night. I was watching Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. And they were doing a special on Sister Madonna Bruder, the Iron Nun, as she's called. And at the time, I think she was in her early 70s, but had just completed her 17th Ironman World Championships. And I was just so moved by her story, that's what really got me into triathlon. And I had kind of put in my mind that, ultimately one day my goal was going to be to get to Ironman Kona and to do the world championships. And so I got into triathlon and signed up for some shorter ones. And the very first one I ever did was, Nations Triathlon down in Washington, D.C. And it was one of the more humbling experiences of my entire life. Just being an athlete, I thought I was going to go out there and tear that race course up. And about 100 meters into that swim, I found myself hanging on a buoy, trying to catch my breath. And so I realized that the journey to get to the ultimate Ironman distance was going to be one that it was going to take a little bit more work than I thought it was going to in the beginning. But the actual Ironman journey itself didn't start, for a few years after that. At the time, a I owned a couple fitness franchises, and my father was unfortunately diagnosed with his second bout of throat cancer. So I was going through a little bit of a tough time just emotionally. I was grinding with my business, working, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night every day, and just found myself in a little bit of a rut. And I think it really was just fate. I got an email late one night in my inbox from the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, raising money for cancer research, and part of their the whole team was that the top fundraiser of that team was going to have the opportunity to race in the Ironman World Championships. And so it was kind of this just fortuitous thing that appeared in my inbox. And, the goal of getting to Ironman World Championship had never left me. I had, continued to race smaller, shorter distance triathlons, but this just kind of appeared in my inbox as my moment. And I was able to couple it with, obviously something that was deeply personal to me at the time, in terms of raising money for cancer research and cancer awareness. And so that's where it really all began. This was back in 2014. And, I jumped in not only to, the Ironman journey, but also the fundraising journey. And it was able to just pair two things that were deeply personal to me. And that's where it all began, and it continued ever since that. So
That's incredible. Just so everyone knows, The Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and then you just wrap it all up with a marathon, 26.2 miles. That's
That's right.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite part? Swim, bike, or the run?
Um, I would have to say, oddly enough, it's my least favorite to train for, but my strongest event is the swim.
Yeah,
And that's it. Even after my story of the first race, the swim has kind of come pretty naturally to me. But all three events, have their own challenges, and I just, I love putting it all together, and
yeah.
the challenge together is really what drives me. So.
For sure. I've done some Olympic distance, which is not even close to an Ironman, but maybe you could give me some pointers on the swim because I do really dislike the training with the swim. So, but I do want to do an Ironman one day. So maybe later at one of the events that we're at together, you can give me some pointers on the swim. Um, you had mentioned that about working many hours, which I know we all do, being in this industry. Um, and one of the things that I always struggle with, whether I'm training for a marathon or one of my upcoming climbs, is balancing training and work. How do you typically balance your training and your demanding work schedule?
It's tough, and it's one of those things where, and I'll go back to my football days, and I think you you practice how you play, and you have to set up a plan for success. And so one of the things that I always do is mapping out a plan, and really trying to stick to it as close as I possibly can. But even from the point where I first started doing all this, I was self-taught, self-trained, and read a book, and they had, varying degrees of level that you could, train at, basically. And knowing that my schedule was going to get complicated, knowing that things were going to get thrown in my way, I set out the plan to train at the most advanced level I possibly could, knowing that if I get 60% of, that training plan done and completed, I was going to be in a position to at least race solid. And I think that's the plan, right? You kind of shoot for the stars, and practice, the way you hope to play. But knowing that things are going to get in the way. I wish I was a professional triathlete and I could do this full time, but that's just not realistic. And understanding that and being okay with that, and just trying to put in as much as I possibly can, but not beating myself up for not getting it all in.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of work, how do you define your role as chief of staff at Merchant? What do you do every day? I know you do a lot, so
Wear a lot of hats.
yeah,
It's been something that's been super unique, Joe, for me, and just in terms of my transition into Merchant, and how the kind of chief of staff role, quote unquote, kind of came to be. When I came to Merchant, we were a very, very young organization. We still are in the grand scheme of things. So when I came in, I was previously, chief operating officer and CFO of a national diagnostic laboratory. So my, two close friends of mine, Tim Bello, Rick D'Amico, brought me into Merchant, kind of knowing my skill set, but kind of just dumped me in and said, help figure stuff out, and help create systems and processes. So, one of the big initiatives that I kind of took on the minute I got to Merchant was building out our CRM, interfacing with all of our different departments to figure out workflows and operational systems. And so I kind of got to touch kind of every area of the organization. And it just kind of was a natural transition then to just kind of overseeing that and being the liaison between, all of our different departments, the rest of our executive committee, and just kind of helping to build, the systems for our young organization, and continues to grow as we continue to grow, which is super exciting, and keeps me busy.
yeah, for sure. I find that a lot of folks like you and I, it's we have different titles, but I think we do similar things at our respective companies, and I feel like some of the lessons that you learn in endurance events or sports, really tie into, your style and how you handle it, on your day-to-day work functions. What lessons have you learned from your training and from your endurance background? I think you told me before the call started, you've now done 14 Ironmans, correct?
12. Yeah, I'm at number
12,
12.
okay,
I
okay.
just got done with number 12 this year. And I don't think it's going to stop. We'll get
So
to,
it'll be 14 at some point.
we'll get to
I
14
was
at
looking
some
into the
point.
future.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get to to 14 at some point. But, Joe, Ironman is something that is so deeply personal to me now at this point. And, ever since that very first one, what I realized is that it's not about the destination. It's really about the journey and getting there. And, all of the work that goes into it in terms of the preparation, you can plan and you can prepare as much as you possibly can. And I think of all the ones I've done, I was probably the most prepared for my first one. And I went into that race that day not knowing what to expect. And um, you hope for everything to go perfectly, but it just never does in any
Yeah.
endurance race or in any endurance sport. And the way that I've always tried to kind of articulate it is that Ironman Day is a microcosm of life. You're going to have so many ups and joyful moments, and you're going to have so many moments where you just don't know if you're going to be able to keep going, and you really just have no choice but to fight through and get to that next kind of peak and that next high,
Yep.
and find ways to enjoy it even when it's difficult. Having conversations with other folks on the course, and rooting each other on, and finding ways to just kind of keep that momentum going. That's what to me has been so special about the Ironman journey is, I learned something new about myself every single time I'm on one of those courses. And, that feeling of getting that finish line and, overcoming the adversity that you inevitably go throughout the course of a 10+ hour day on a race course, it is super special. And it's really kind of hard to put into words how cool it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Every time I go on any expedition, I come back a changed person. So I know exactly what you're talking about. The whole thing is a journey, the training, and then all the way to the actual event itself. How do you handle failure or setback, whether in Ironman, in preparing, or in business? How do you handle either one of those?
Yeah, I'd have to say, I'm a lot better at it than I
Yeah,
was earlier on. Just the competitive nature of who I am. But I've certainly learned through business, probably more so than in Ironman. But failure is a part of the journey, and everything's not always going to go your way. And learning as many lessons as you possibly can, and really having moments of self-reflection after failure, and really understanding, what went wrong, what potential pitfall didn't I see before, and how do I ensure that I just don't make that mistake again. I think though that's the biggest thing, and the sooner you kind of get to the point where you accept that and accept that reality in life, and learn to turn your failures into the next success. That's the secret, to both business and life. And something I kind of constantly, I think we all understand intuitively, but it's something that you constantly have to remind yourself of when you're going through those difficult moments and difficult times.
yeah, absolutely. Um, what's been your favorite Ironman?
Hands down, getting to the Ironman World Championship.
Okay. Yeah.
I was fortunate enough, that first year to come in as the top fundraiser for my charity initiative. And so my second Ironman was Ironman World Championships out in Kona. And I was able to
Amazing.
accomplish my ultimate dream and goal pretty early on in the Ironman journey. But crossing that finish line, and being able to do it with the charity initiative, and in support
Yeah.
of that, ended up creating something that I never really knew it would become. Really, it was just a long-term partnership with the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation. I continued to race with them, year after year between, 2014, 2019, and then again, obviously, we had a huge initiative this year with Merchant, with my teammates,
Yep.
doing a number of different endurance races this year in support of our business partner and friend, Brian Staff. So, but yeah, to answer your question, Joe, that one was the big one. And I'll never forget that moment of, just so many years of that being a goal in the back of my mind. And then, the energy of that race, how special that place was definitely one of the big highlights of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And as everyone may or may not know, Brian, also one of the guests of the podcast, is one of our partners together. And if you haven't watched that episode, definitely, because it was hard to hold back the tears. He was amazing during that podcast. What advice would you give others regarding their pursuit of whatever their mountain is? Any advice?
I think I touched on it briefly, Joe, but just plan and go after whatever that mountain is with just reckless intent and a never say quit attitude. I think that's the big thing. That's what drives me. There's been a ton of setbacks. This year was extremely difficult for me, and just in terms of battling injury and um, I probably should have given up on the mission this year just based on what I was dealing with, but it's not who I am. And you gotta, if it really is a goal and if it's that important to you, just pursue it with relentless dedication. And that really is it. And map out a plan. Understand that there's going to be challenges along the way, but as long as you understand that, you know, quitting is not an option, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised you didn't quit. So, what's the next mountain for you, either literally or metaphorically?
Yeah, I think we're in a very early stages of our climb at Merchant. So I think there's a ton of, little many hurdles that we want to keep reaching as a company. So I think just continuing to pursue our end goal, supporting all of our partners and building Merchant into the world-class organization that it already is, but just continuing to grow is going to be a huge focus for me. And, along that mountain, and one of the things that I want to, make sure that we continue to do is continue this philanthropic initiative. I think that's going to be a mountain all of itself that, hopefully we can do a lot of good and continue to support a lot of charitable initiatives. And, whether that be through pounding the pavement and running races or doing other things. I look forward to that piece of, helping Merchant grow and impact the communities that we all serve, throughout all of our various organizations. I think that's going to take on a life of its own, and something I'm obviously super passionate about and want to continue to pursue. So, what shape or form that takes on in the year to come, in the years to come, I'm not quite sure just yet. We're just coming off of the last
Yep.
event from this season, but really looking forward to just continuing to build an incredible organization with, all my incredible partners. It's super special to be a part of. And I don't even really see it as a mountain. It's just super fun for us to continue to build what we're building.
Yeah, absolutely. Great partner of mine. Obviously, great partner of ours at Concurrent. You and Merchant, and proud to be part of the entire family. So, well, Brad, thank you. I appreciate your time on What Is Your Mountain today, and I'm hoping maybe one day you and I are on that same course, and maybe I'm notching my first, and you're notching the 14th that I already told everyone that you're doing.
Hey, Joe, let's take the maybe out. Let's put it on the calendar and make it happen, man.
I
Let's
love it,
go
Brad.
for
Let's
it.
do it.
All right,
Thanks
bud.
again, Brad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in to What Is Your Mountain. Brad Moss's story is a powerful example of what happens when determination meets purpose. From enduring the demands of Ironman racing to making an impact in the business world. His journey reminds us that challenges we face are often the very things that shape us. We hope Brad's insights inspire you to keep pushing forward no matter how tough the climb feels. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow us and stay tuned for more inspiring conversations. Until next time, keep climbing, Concurrent.